Welcome to another episode of Under the Influence. I am Brian Glenn. Thanks for tuning in right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Before we get into today's episode, which is very special, by the way, I've got a great special guest for you. We want to thank our friends over at Patriot Mobile because, like big tech, your cell phone companies, well, they're a part of the problem as well. So why wouldn't you want to team up with a mobile provider that can offer all of the great service and savings that you expect, but they also donate to conservative causes? So go over to patriotmobile.com/RSBN for a very special offer there. You can keep your phone, you can keep your number. It's safe, it's easy. If you want a new phone, they can give that to you as well. Heck, you might even want a new number. They can do that too. Go check them out over at patriotmobile.com/RSBN. Okay, well, you know this show is all about featuring conservative influencers on our social media platforms. And of course, they've got their opinions, they've got their voices. How do they come up with all of that? But before we have influencers, we must have the proper platform. My next guest has the platform for you. Jason Miller developed GETTR, GETTR, a new social media platform. And of course, he was with the Trump campaign back in 2016 up to 2020. Jason, welcome to the show. And before we get into all things GETTR, walk me through what it's like to work for the Trump campaign back in the day and trying to get these messages out on social media. I would imagine that was pretty difficult to do.
Well, Brian, thanks once again for having me. I love what you're doing. I love what Right Side Broadcasting is doing, particularly your coverage of the Trump rallies. This is fantastic. I mean, especially as we see even folks like Fox News not covering President Trump's rallies. To know that we have Right Side there covering everything, I think is a real service to not just to Mega Nation, but to the country as a whole. But having worked for President Trump, I can tell you that really was his superpower, so to speak, in 2016, even 2020, is being able to evade the mainstream media, to be able to connect directly with people so they could see him unfiltered. It's one of the things we started doing with Facebook Live in 2016. Really, it was his Twitter going all the way back to 2015, and even going way back before that when he was criticizing former President Obama. But that was really the goal, because we knew if we were delivering the messages purely through the media, then they would filter it, they would change it, they would edit it. This is part of the reason why it was so big in 2020, what big tech and big media colluded to do with deplatforming President Trump or silencing so much of his message and the messages of so many of his supporters.
Yeah, and of course, social media was a big reason why I think he won back in 2016. Well, he won in 2020. That's a whole nother discussion, because he was able to get those messages out unfiltered, that we knew the CNNs of the world and everybody else weren't going to cover his rallies. They weren't going to cover a lot of the press conferences. So he had to turn to social media to do that.
Yeah, and that's why it's always it's always critical to have a platform where we know that people are not going to be censored, where they're not going to be deplatformed purely for speaking their political beliefs. And that's what I always say, that our two principles here at GETTR is to A, make sure that we support free speech, and B, to oppose cancel culture in all of its forms. And this is also part of the reason why we realized after the Hunter Biden laptop story was not covered, and in fact, not even just not covered, but actively suppressed by Twitter and Facebook and the mainstream media, that we needed to have another social media outlet to make sure we're able to get the truth across.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of independent voters. They've said that if they would have known certain information about Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, that they might not necessarily have voted for them. So that you're to your point, you're absolutely right. Social media suppressed a lot of information that would have perhaps changed people's minds in terms of who they voted for. Okay, walk me through GETTR, because how do you start? I mean, if someone said, Brian, I want you to start a social media platform, I wouldn't have any idea what it takes. I wouldn't know about the financial investment, what goes on, the computers, scientists behind everything. Walk us through the steps of how you guys launched this GETTR.
Absolutely. And so I formally joined the team in June of this year as the CEO, but I've been really started to actively talk with them going back to, say, March, maybe even to February. But really where this started was last fall, as I said before. realizing that after the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, that there really needed to be an additional platform. There needed to be a way to get the message out there. And we're always told by big tech, oh, you know what? You don't have to be here on Twitter or Facebook or Google or YouTube. Just go start your own. Well, here's the reason why you don't see social media platforms pop up all the time. Number one, it's going to take you about 6 to 9 months really to go and develop and get it put together. So it takes quite a while. You're probably looking at $40–50 million to do it right, to go and find the right talent, to get the coders and the engineers and the people who really have the smarts and wherewithal to go and structurally put it together. It is a really hard task. And just think, not even just building it, but developing the codes for your search ability, for making sure that you have other languages developed, that you have that you're doing the plenty of testing to make sure all the features work. There's a lot that goes into it. And so as the spring, as I was working for President Trump in the post-presidency phase, and I started sitting in some of these pitches and realizing that there's either some folks who had really good ideas, but they were tens of millions of dollars and months away, or you had people who had more mature platforms where they just weren't very good. And then when GETTR came along, I was like, you know what? These guys have the right structure, they have the right coders and the engineers, they have the capital to back it up. Let's go and team up and make this thing a success, which 2 million users later, we're on our way to doing.
Yeah, Jason Miller of GETTR joining us today on Under the Influence. Okay, so the launch date, let's talk about what that was like to have that official launch date. And can you give us any numbers or any idea of how many people said, I'll download that app right now on my phone?
Yeah, well, in the first day, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of about 700,000 people who signed up, which was just tremendous. We reached 1 million users in 3 days, fastest ever social media platform in history to get to 1 million users. And we're at 2 million now. And so this thing's really taken off. About half of that 2 million, about 1 million is here in the US, and about 1 million is international.
Yeah. Now, during the Trump days, Jason, how often did you notice that Twitter or Facebook was sending you guys little, community standards violations and things like that? How often did that happen? And what was your reaction when you would get a notice like that?
Well, it happened quite a bit, and especially toward the end of the campaign, it seemed like it was happening almost daily. And then, of course, after the campaign, as we're going through the recount phase, it was definitely happening almost daily. And what we saw is, going back, there's a reason why I wrote the column in the Washington Times a week or so back saying this has been the worst year for censorship in American history, because it's not just what happened to President Trump. You can think about to early last year when you had so many conservatives being shadow banned or censored or deplatformed for daring to say that the COVID-19, the Wuhan virus, actually came from a lab in China, which, spoiler, it did. Or how many people were told that they were posting dangerous content for daring to criticize Dr. Anthony Fauci, who, by the way, has been proven wrong on everything. Although I can't say he's necessarily been proven wrong, because he's changed his position to then be right after he's proven wrong. And so he was against it before he was for it. We saw what happened with the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, which, again, that alone most likely could have swung the election even beyond their cheating or beyond their illegally changing voting rules. And then we saw President Trump being deplatformed. So this entire last year really has been the worst year for censorship. And there's one other thing, Brian, I'd point out too: the fact that we now have a White House that's teaming up with social media outlets to play judge, jury, and executioner for who gets to have their First Amendment rights and who doesn't. So, for example, when you see Jen Psaki up there, when she's not circling back saying, you know what, we're pointing out certain posts, and we believe that people get kicked off of one platform should be kicked off all of them. They want to see 75 million Americans kicked off of social media. That's their goal.
Yeah, that is their goal. They want to eliminate our voice altogether, in which GETTR allows you to still have that voice. People have been on Twitter and they feel like they're not reaching the percentage of their followers. Can you kind of break that down for me real quickly? Because let's just say I have 15,000 followers on Twitter and I put out a tweet. What percentage of people do you think I'm actually receiving with that tweet?
But, that's a great question. It's one of the things that's tough to necessarily go and prove ever since they've changed up the algorithm. So it's not in the chronological fashion, but rather in however they think you'd be most interested in seeing it fashion. So I'll tell you two prominent conservatives who I never see on Twitter anymore. That'd be Don Jr., as well as, say, Dinesh D'Souza. So when I'm on Instagram, for example, I see Don Jr. Constantly. He's always posting on social media. But when I go to Twitter, the only time I ever see Don Jr. is if somebody else reposts him. A lot of times there'll be random accounts or people who maybe don't have as big of followings. Maybe they're not quote unquote verified when it comes to Twitter. And same thing with Dinesh D'Souza. I mean, I follow him on Twitter, but would never see him. Now with Dinesh having come over to GETTR, I see his posts all the time. I see everyone. And so those companies will push back and say that, no, we don't do anything with the algorithm. But as we saw from the book from the former Google employee, we do know that they play with the algorithm.
Yeah, I've got it on my phone right now. For people at home, this is kind of an idea of what it looks like, the logo. And I love the layout of GETTR because it's easy to navigate. How important was that for you guys? We've seen some other social media platforms come out, and Jason, they've just been too complicated. They weren't user friendly. Was that top of mind when you guys laid this out?
Absolutely, because here's the thing. You can go and get someone to go to a platform once is kind of a rejection of big tech. is a rejection of this cancel culture, but to get people coming back, to make that the first app that they open every morning when they get up, as opposed to going to, say, Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, you have to make it good, you have to make it fun, and you have to make it just very smooth and clean. That's one of the things that the big tech companies have when you look at Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. They're very well, I'd say, although Facebook, I'm going to come back to Twitter and Instagram, I think, are very smooth. Facebook, I think, has really goofed up their model. It's very clear that they're no longer a social network company. They're really a data company. You see 2 posts and then an ad, 2 posts and then an ad. That's really what you see there. And plus, I think Facebook's gotten very boring. But Twitter and Instagram, I think, are very smooth, very clean. We wanted to make sure that we had something that was even better than what the Silicon Valley oligarchs, what the Silicon Valley oligarchs even had. That's what we set out to do. And we knew that we had to absolutely make it superior technology for it to be a success.
I would even say, Jason, the pictures are crisper. Is that a correct assumption? Because they just seem clean.
Yeah, no, we don't compress pictures and videos as much as some of the other platforms. And so especially when you go through and see some of the videos that are shot in the 4K format, it looks so smooth and so clean. You're like, wait a minute, is this, how is this so much clearer and nicer than certain other platforms? And it is about 25-30% cleaner and sharper than we've seen from some others.
And I love the success that you guys have had so far. You've got another really big conservative personalities, and to really be vocal about getting a GETTR on their phone and getting away from the other guys. Because let's just be honest, those other guys are in bed with the radical left. There's absolutely no doubt about that. That it's been proven. So I love the fact that you guys stand for America. You put America first. You're pro-Trump, you're pro-freedom and liberties and everything that we celebrate in this country. So I want people right now watching us, go to your app store. And Jason, let's make sure I'm sending them into the right place, Apple or Android. Is that correct?
Yep, you got it. Go to the Apple App Store, go to the Google Play Store, just GETTR, GETTR, or you can even go to the website, GETTR.com, do a quick sign up, take you about 15-20 seconds, and you'll be in and have your account set up. Do some really cool things. You can, if you use the same handle name as you do on Twitter, you can actually import all of your tweets. That's your property. It's not big tech's property. That's your intellectual property. You can go and import those in, so those populate your timeline. So then you feel like, wow, I'm actually bringing my content with me. The other thing too, we will never sell or share any of your user data. That's a huge difference between us and Twitter and Facebook, which, by the way, when Twitter filed to go public, they said that, yeah, we're going to make our money from selling your data. And at GETTR, we firmly oppose that. We think that's wrong to go and do. And I don't think so many people realize they're signing their life away when they check those boxes to create Twitter or Facebook accounts.
And I'll add this, Jason, whenever ivermectin and some of these other remedies that could treat COVID came out, when I saw big tech instantly taking down posts suggesting people might try ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, those are things that we know can help save lives. And when I saw big tech suppressing that voice and that message, it became abundantly clear what their overall mission was. It wasn't necessarily to stop and beat COVID. It was stopping President Trump from being successful. And that is rotten to the core. And those social media platforms have a lot of blood on their hands. And that's my voice, not yours. That's my opinion, because they did everything they could to stop the truth from coming out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example. I mean, look at right now with the way that the many in the media are even ignoring Afghanistan to keep focusing on COVID, saying that if only these bumpkin Trump supporters in the rural areas would just get their vaccination shot, everything would be fine. Well, the reality is there's a lot about COVID we still don't know. We were told last year, you get the jab once, or if you have the Johnson & Johnson, or in the case of Pfizer, you get it twice, that everything was then going to be fine. Then obviously we start finding out about the Delta variant, other variants. See, we're going to need, even Dr. Fauci said we're going to need boosters. I saw one Swedish doctor say you might need as many as 5 over a lifetime. And so clearly it's not the end all be all, but the media doesn't go back and say, hey, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden really have some responsibility for being such radical anti-vaxxers back in the fall in the campaign, saying they wouldn't take a vaccine that was developed by President Trump or that he told people to go and get. And I think it's so disingenuous that the media says, boy, if President Trump had just joined that PSA with Presidents Bush and Clinton and Obama, everything would be solved. But you're never going to hear them go and criticize, for example, say Cam Newton, quarterback for the New England Patriots, who's currently sitting out for 5 days because he's not vaccinated. Or you're never going to hear them criticize other professional athletes, including the quarterback for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson. I mean, you never see the media play it both ways and say, yeah, I mean, it always has to be about rural Trump supporters who are unvaccinated. They're causing all the problems in the world, and that's just wrong.
It is wrong. And I want everyone watching us right now, share this broadcast, tag a friend in the comment section. We must make sure that GETTR continues the success and track that they're on right now, because we have got to break away from those traditional social media platforms. I love to see what's happening to Rumble right now, because Rumble is just skyrocketing. We never thought months ago when we do a rally, our YouTube views would outpace by far our Rumble. That now has reversed, Jason. And that just shows that people watching us right now, you go out and you get GETTR on your phone, you download it, you tell a friend, because that is the only way we're going to be assured that our voices are heard. The only way.
Yep, absolutely. Need to make sure, get out there, download GETTR. We got some great conservatives on there. We have Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, Dinesh D'Souza, Secretary Mike Pompeo, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Gina Carano, Jorge Masvidal from the UFC. Some really fun people who are on it. We even, and again, internationally, we have President Bolsonaro from Brazil.
Yeah.
So this is really growing even beyond the US.
You got Steve Bannon as well. He promotes it quite a bit too. And I love it. I love what you guys are doing. Jason, you know, we're a fan of you guys. And when we partner up with you on these Trump rallies, we certainly hope people are responding to that, downloading the app. And we try to talk about it as much as possible. I mean, I have it on my phone. Thank you very much. If you want to follow me, watch us right now, Brian Glenn TV. Brian Glenn TV. I'm on GETTR. Follow me, and I will absolutely tell everyone from the top of the mountain, Jason, that they need to download this app right now.
Well, Brian, thank you so much. Thanks for everything you're doing, everything Right Side Broadcasting is doing, and look forward to seeing you a whole bunch more in the future.
Absolutely. All right, stay tuned. We've got more of Under the Influence right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. Patriot Mobile is the only Christian conservative wireless provider in the country. Now more than ever, it's vital that we support companies and organizations that share our values. You get award-winning customer service and the technology you need to connect your worlds. Simply go online to patriotmobile.com/RSBN for special offers. Welcome back to Under the Influence. Big thanks to Jason Miller over at GETTR for joining us on today's show. Now, all the social media influencers that we have right now, we see every day, they need a platform. And I'm not sure the platforms that traditionally have been laid out for us is the future. Go download on your Apple or Android store, GETTR today. That's spelled GETTR. Get that on your phone and be able to post without any shadow of a doubt that people are going to see it, and also let your voices be heard. We want to thank our friends over at Patriot Mobile. And of course, we've all got a cell phone right here. And a lot of times it's the biggest bill that you pay outside your mortgage or your car payment. These phones can almost get like a car payment. If you want to reduce the cost and you want to contribute to a conservative company, then go over to Patriot Mobile, patriotmobile.com/RSBN, as we got a special offer there for you. You can keep your phone, you can keep your number. It's quick, it's easy, it's safe. If you want a new phone, you can get that too. If you want a new number, you can get that too. It takes about 15 minutes to switch over, and definitely you want to do that because you want to support companies that support conservative values and they don't support socialist leftist agendas, which the other guys do. patriotmobile.com/RSBN and get that special offer and help them out today, as they were all helping us in fighting for conservative truth and values. Until next time, everybody, goodbye. God bless for everyone here at Right Side Broadcasting. We'll see you later.